Today we're going to talk about reasons new students quit Jiu-Jitsu right after starting. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons. I just had a few that I wrote down. Lack of motivation or purpose for training. So, I mean, motivation is a big one for a lot of people. You know, even being a black belt, sometimes I'm not motivated. So there's extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. So extrinsic is those outside factors. Could be your coach messaging you on Instagram or Facebook or whatever to come and train, or your friends. Intrinsic motivation would be more so just that you have this desire to train. You want to go and train. It depends on you, and that's going to fluctuate a lot. You know, some people are highly motivated. Other people need more of a push. As a new person starting out, you're probably going to need more extrinsic motivation. You're going to need those external factors, like your coaches pushing you to train, the higher belts pushing you to come in and attend more classes. Yeah, the motivation is going to wax and wane, guys. You're not always going to be super pumped to be at the academy. You're not always going to be super pumped to go and train. But what I've found is that when you're kind of down, usually you pick back up as soon as you hit the mats. You see your friends, you get to hang out, but sometimes, you know, you want to stay at home. You got your wife, you got your kids, you got work, you got all this other stuff going on. So you got to find that balance. I think when I first started, I was just addicted. And I see that happen too. Sometimes white belts start out and you're like, this is the greatest thing ever. And then they're just hooked. So for those guys, they need to not push too hard because they'll get injured. But if you're finding yourself having the opposite problem, you're not being really motivated, you don't want to go and train, you don't want to be there. I mean, worst case, you just don't go. You just find something else you'd rather do. As a coach, I was talking to some other coaches. Whenever someone, like, they hate being there, and I see it on their eyes, and they don't want to be there, man, just don't be there, you know? Either take a break or find something you love, you know? Life's short, don't waste your time. Feeling overwhelmed or frustrated with learning process. So yeah, as a new student, as a new white belt, you're gonna be overwhelmed. You're gonna feel frustrated just from forgetting the moves. You're not gonna remember anything. You're gonna mess up. Just realize that's what white belt represents. That just means that's a get out of jail card, you know? As a white belt, we have no expectations on you. We don't expect you to do well. We don't expect you to do the warm up really well. We don't expect you to do the technique properly. We don't expect you to tie your belt right. So that is, it's kind of freeing. You know, I kind of miss being a white belt because there's no expectations put on you. And when you do well, it's like, oh my God, this guy's a white belt. You're like, people will hype you up over every little thing you do when you're a white belt. You know, if you forget things, people are helpful. They're like, oh, I'll help the white belt. Usually they're not going to beat up the white belts too bad. You know, they usually want to take care of the white belts. So you're going to feel frustrated sometimes. You're going to feel overwhelmed sometimes. Just take it bit by bit, go slow, try to get as many repetitions as possible. Try to pair up with the higher belt so they can help you, and try to really think about your jiu-jitsu. Really try to think about your jiu-jitsu, what you're there to accomplish, what you want to do, what you want to learn, and try to reinforce that information. You guys have so much access to resources. You have like BJJ Fanatics, you have Jiu Jitsu X, you have YouTube, you have Instagram, TikTok, you have all these apps and this information available to you. So they can be overwhelming, but it's always ever present in your mind. So you're not really going to forget anything because, oh, someone filmed the class. Oh, someone filmed the technique. Oh, you forgot what you were doing. You can look it up on YouTube. So if you feel yourself getting overwhelmed, just take it slow, man. Take it slow. Physical discomfort or pain during training. Yeah, jiu-jitsu is not very fun. It is fun, but you know, it's still a sport. It's still a grappling practice. So there's going to be times where you get put in these terrible positions. You're getting mounted, you're getting inside mount, you get your back taken and you're getting in the choke. So first off, you know, try to weather the storm as long as you can. In worst case, you feel really bad, just tap out and restart. So that's like the best thing about jiu-jitsu, is that you get in a bad position, you just tap out, you restart, you can try again. Try to stay out of that position, try to stay out of that submission the next time. So yeah, I mean, if you feel uncomfortable, it could be headlock, could be anything. Just, you know, try to bear with it as long as you can, but then tap out if you need to. You know, again, if you're a new person, you're a white belt, no expectations, just tap. Time constraints or scheduling conflicts. So, I mean, most schools have the same schedule. They usually have an early morning class, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., maybe a class for the killers, you know, the young guns, the competitors, and then there's like a noon class, maybe 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock class, and then usually kids class around 4, 5, 6 p.m., and then beginners around 6, 7 p.m., and then adult advanced past like 7 p.m. usually. So most schools gonna have that kind of schedule, and if your work schedule or whatever schedule, your family life schedule doesn't revolve around that, it can be really tough. One thing you guys can do is take private lessons on the off schedule if you know you can only make it at exactly at 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. That's the only time you can go train. You might have to set up private lessons. Lack of support from family or friends. So this was a big one back in the day, lack of support, because people didn't really know what jiu-jitsu was. It was this weird kind of crazy thing, people rolling around on the ground. But nowadays, it's more mainstream, it's more understood. People kind of have an idea of what it is. Before it was kind of secretive. People ask me what I did, I'll be like, I do jiu-jitsu. You know, I have to whisper. Of course, they would be like, oh, that's karate, blah, blah, blah. But nowadays, you know, the UFC is popular, jiu-jitsu is becoming more popular, so more people understand it. So I don't think that's too big of a reason anymore. It is different than other sports, but it's, yeah, I mean, it's basically wrestling and judo. So most people kind of understand it better nowadays. Financial difficulties or inability to afford training fees. So this one is happening real time. Jiu-jitsu is never been more expensive than it is now. Man, if I were to start jiu-jitsu now as a white belt, I don't think I would be able to afford to go and train. It's so expensive now. Depending on what part of the world you are, you know, in Europe, in other places, it's a little bit cheaper. In America, it's expensive. If you have a budget, you're gonna have to ask around. You know, typically the better schools are gonna cost more. If they have a world champion black belt or they got Gracie in the name, you're gonna have to get your checkbook out. But because there's more schools around in America, there's gonna be some academies with lower tuition fees, so you can look into those. You might have to travel for those. If you're in a major city, you're gonna have to pay, so keep that in mind. Worst case, you can't afford jiu-jitsu. Usually judo classes will be more affordable. You know, they're gonna be more run like a club. The fee's not gonna be anywhere near some of the jiu-jitsu academies. Injury or fear of injury during training. Listen, injuries come with sports, so there's no way to get around that. The most important thing is to train smart, get your foundation, have a strong foundation set, learn the basic movements of jiu-jitsu, and then also monitor who you're training with. If you're training with brand new white belts, I was training with a brand new white belt the other day, and like, even for me, I might still get injured rolling with those guys. So be very careful. If you want to be safe, just try to train with more advanced students. Usually they're going to take better care of you versus you're new and you train with someone else new. You guys don't know what you're doing. You're both going to get injured probably. But if you roll with like the higher belts, they're going to be more technical. Ego or competitiveness interfering with learning and growth. Yeah, so the guys with the ego usually don't last very long. If you're like a bodybuilder, huge, strong guy, and you get into the Jiu-Jitsu Academy and get your butt kicked by like a 100-pound person, it's gonna be hard on your ego. That's what happened with me when I first started training. I was getting tapped by these girls and I was like, man, this sucks, but I kept coming back. So you gotta set your ego aside. If your ego's in the way, you're probably not gonna take time to learn and get better. So if that ego's in the way and that's what's stopping you, that's on you, bro. Take your time, remind yourself that you are a white belt, you are a beginner, and just try to keep an open mind, okay? Just try to learn, go to the academy, go and learn, and try your best. Don't worry about winning or losing, just try your best. Difficulty adapting to physical demands and conditioning required for BJJ. So conditioning is hard. When you first start training, that warm-up usually gonna kill you. Depending on what kind of academy you train at, some schools do that old school running warm-up, and bro, that takes people out. That running warm-up, all right, guys, run, that take people out. You will need some level of basic physical fitness. If you're a new person and maybe you haven't started training just yet, start walking at least 20, 30 minutes. If you can jog, even better. Basic calisthenics like push-ups, sit-ups, being able to do like 10, 20, 30 reps of those, really important. You need a minimal amount of flexibility to be good at jiu-jitsu and stay uninjured. So if you're very tight, your body's stiff, before you go into the class, you wanna start developing that mobility, that flexibility in your range of motion. Again, take it slow. You're a white belt. You don't need to be doing what the blue belt, crazy blue belts are doing or the crazy purple belts are doing. Don't be jumping and flying and flipping. Stick with the basic techniques that you're learning in class. And when in doubt, what I see a lot of white belts do, they try to create some crazy move, they try to do something crazy. Just think for a second before you do that crazy move, did someone show me this? Or should I be doing this? Is this safe? If any of those questions are no, don't do that move, okay? And then last one, we got personal or life changes that make training difficult or impossible to continue. So, you know, most instructors are gonna, of course, they want you to be in the academy all the time, living in there day and night. You know, we're all living. So there's gonna be times where you can't make it to training. There's gonna be times where you need to go to school, work on your projects, work on your homework, take your wife out on a date night, take your kids to soccer practice, and just realize it's okay to take that time off and handle your business, okay? Jiu-Jitsu will always be there for you. Don't worry. But, you know, don't take too long of a break. Just try to pop your head in when you can. Try to get 1, 2, 3 classes a week if you can. Any more than that, you know, it's great, awesome, but if you can't make that, just do the bare minimum you can. And then I talked about how you have so much access to resources now. You know, you can study. Say there's a day where you can't make it into the academy, go and study. Watch competition video online. Go watch Flow Grappling or whatever other million subscription services there are now. You can call up someone that trains and talk about jiu-jitsu. That's like another form of keeping yourself and your mind activated. Just stay active, guys. Stay active. Hey, yo, we all fighting in life, but take care of your business. When you can make it to the academy, make it to the academy. Be engaged. Go in there focused, ready, and happy to be there. That's it, man. Enjoy being a white belt. I miss being a white belt. You know, if I could go back to being a white belt in jiu-jitsu, I would, because, bro, you just chill, bro, and there's nobody cares what you're doing. Man, no expectations, no stress when you're a white belt. You just, man, just show up. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you check out this other video here. And that's it, guys. Peace, 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 peace.